Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Heading on into this weekend, Miami Dolphins will not play until Monday Night Football. I don't know how much I buy into the Miami Dolphins being able to make a big-time run. And I just... Look, I think they played about as well as you could play last week, outside of course, the critical... The critical fumble and of course the stupid Jordan Poyer penalty, which did not eradicate the mole descriptions that he's been dealing with. But I think it's interesting because this NFC West has gotten Miami so far this year, and I almost feel like everyone we've gone into these, we're like, yeah, the Dolphins, they can kind of match up with Seattle, and they're going to be, they should handle that game. And, to be fair, they probably should have. If they would have had, that one to me is like, if the Dolphins had Tua, they would have been in a spot to win that game. They just needed to execute and play off of the Seattle Seahawks mistakes. I mean, that was a rare game where, like, Seattle was begging the Dolphins, hey, come take this game. And the Dolphins said, no, thank you. Then you have Arizona, who comes into your building. You probably should have won that one, but that's really the start of some like defensive problems that get going. And you're wondering, like, all right, is the levee starting to break on this Dolphins defense? Now you're going out. You got a few things going against you. One of them being this Rams team is getting healthy. They've won 3 straight. They are 4-4 now. They have a lot of weapons on offense. Last week, they lost Puka Nacua last week. They just got him back, and they lost him right before halftime because he punched somebody right in the face. But they have Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp, stepped right in there and did what he did, and that's and that's just starting to get healthy, starting to be himself. Yeah, that crazy touchdown grab by Robinson in the end zone in overtime to win the damn game. And they also sacked Geno Smith 7 times. This is going to be an interesting one for the Dolphins because Jared Verse, their stud defensive rookie, who, some are saying, hey, could be in the running for defensive rookie of the year, 2 picks ahead of Chop Robinson. So it's interesting. We've been sitting here and being like, Chop's going to take his time and all that type of stuff. But, this kid's right in the fire. He is wreaking havoc. He's getting pressures. He got 3.5 sacks. He leads the team in tackles for loss. He's got 9 of them. For perspective, Calais Campbell leads the Dolphins. He's got 7 of them. So the kid's been all over the place. He's been absolutely tremendous for the LA Rams. So I don't think this is an easy game for the Miami Dolphins by any means. If they play the way they did against Buffalo, I think they'll have a shot for sure. I think this is a game where the Dolphins, if they play to their capabilities and don't have the critical errors, then yeah, I give them a chance. It's not like they're going into a hostile environment, but the West Coast trip, has not been kind to the Miami Dolphins. Road games haven't been kind to the Miami Dolphins. And not only that, primetime games have not been kind to the Miami Dolphins, particularly Mike McDaniel. And I went through his run. I think I got every game, but by my count, Mike McDaniel coached primetime games, which I included as playoffs, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. I got him at a count of 1-9. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure the lone win that Mike McDaniel has is a Pittsburgh is a Pittsburgh 16-10 win to his return after the brutal Cincinnati concussion. But that, I believe, stands. This year, they're 0-2. They lost on Monday Night Football. 2, of course, wasn't starting there. They lost the Thursday nighter against the Buffalo Bills. Last year, lost in the playoffs. The Monday Night Meltdown. Sunday Night Football against Philly. So, yeah, they're on a bit of a, what is that? That's a We're talking, yeah. So that's 5 straight going back to last year. And then 2022, Mike McDaniel's first year, they lost in the playoffs to Buffalo. They lost Sunday Night Football, that LA matchup against the Chargers, one of the most disappointing games of his era, I would say. And so that's 7 straight if you're including playoffs. And then Pittsburgh was a win. That was 16-10. Noah Igbenogany getting the win for the Dolphins. They lost on Thursday Night Football to the Bengals. So, and I think Tua, since Mike McDaniel's been the coach, he's 1-7. So he hasn't fared much better in those games. I mean, if you want to take off the Cincinnati game, maybe it's 1-6. But either way, they have 1 win between each other as a in prime time as a head coaching quarterback tandem. So yeah, and Tua hasn't been like the most impressive primetime quarterback. Like, I think the game that probably is like his go-to resume game on a primetime is Thursday Night Football 2021, comes off the bench, beats the Baltimore Ravens. And he wasn't like amazing in that game, but he was effective. And that was a game that was like all about Lamar Jackson. Then of course the next year he beats Lamar Jackson again. That was probably Tua's, I think we'd all probably looked at that. That's probably Tua's best game ever. He won a Monday night game that year against the Saints. Ian Book was the quarterback. Big game for Jalen Waddle as a rookie. And then in 2020, you had a Saturday night game against Vegas. And of course that was, the signature moment of that game isn't even him. That's Ryan Fitzpatrick's face-twisted miracle. So that all is just there to let you know, like, Tua needs like a prime time, like moment, because it does feel like every time that they get onto these prime time games, and they got more coming up. I mean, they got a Thanksgiving game coming up, but it would be nice if the Miami Dolphins could really look to a performance on the big stage, on the national stage, all eyes on them. Can you keep your season alive? It's already on life support. And the idea that, if they win this game, it feels similar to where they were when Tua first went down, because we were saying a lot of the similar things about Seattle, and then you're like, Seattle, but if you get Seattle, then you got Tennessee and New England and Indy. You're a little bit in that space again. It's like, well, if you beat LA, then you definitely could beat Las Vegas and New England. But the thing with the Dolphins is it's really tough to gauge this team because they just have no rhyme or reason to when they're going to blow it. That's the problem with them, and that's been the problem with the year. And I would agree with all people who want to say, hey, Tobes, they had their best game this last. I'm like, yeah, I would say yes, they did. But they're also in a little bit of the Dolphins are in a little bit of they're effectively doing long drives, and longer drives do put you in the propensity to make mistakes, which is what the Bills did and eventually were successful on. So I think with this, there's a couple of things I'd love to see this week. I'd love to see the Dolphins. You have this big time, probably one of the best duos in the league you're going up against, and you're supposed to have one of the best duos in the league, both big-time paid receivers. Can you show out and show that you're really the great show and have those explosive plays? Because I'm all for the Dolphins having a run game and all that, but the face of their team and having the best player in the NFL voted by his peers be in this spot where, like, he really hasn't gotten to get loose. And even if you go back and you look at his game with like 4 yards, 80, and he had moments, but there was never that, if you think to that one deep pass they really couldn't connect on in the right way, could there have been a touchdown that way? But man, I think you got to put more fear. I don't like the fact that the Dolphins have kind of resigned themselves to this. Well, they're taking him away. It's like, dude, he's faster than anybody. Jalen Waddle faster than anybody, and it just feels like the Dolphins. They're like these teams will take you throwing to Jonnu and Odell Beckham all day long, dude. So I would like to see a little more of that, but alas, it's hard to say. there was a report today from Chris Perkins that the Dolphins have been having multiple players-only meetings, the most recent one coming this Monday. And I guess the whole point of it is the players saying, hey, stay in the fight. And look, mathematically, this is probably the last stand of, okay, if you win this and you start getting rolling a little bit, and, I saw people doing the algorithm, well, if they win these next 3, then they could get back to 500 on Thanksgiving. And this is, in the words of my boy Robbie the Degenerate, this is major chicken counting. I mean, you are counting chickens before the eggs have even come close to hatching. I don't even know if an egg's popped out of the chicken's butt yet. We'll see that come Monday night. They do have some good things going their way because, Zach Sealer is coming back. He's going to be playing with a visor. He was convinced by his wife, and I think that's adorable. And also, listen, that dude's got some pretty eyes on him, man. So if you're Mrs. Sealer, you want to keep those things protected. Plus his eyesight, just in general. But he's going to look like I think that's kind of cool. I think Zach Sealer's going to look like a monster with the visor. I think it's going to be a good look for him. So that's an exciting thing. You know what was weird though? I will say this. I don't know if you guys listened to the Zach Sealer description of what had happened. He's like, oh, I don't remember. I'm telling you right now, dude, I still think it was this Liam Eichenberg who got him. And I guess they're friends, so I think he doesn't want any public backlash coming Liam's way. He's having, an okay season. The offensive line's gotten some heat off of its back. Teron Armstead's been amazing, and he's been carrying all of it, which, hey, kudos to it being a good run. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on it. I will say, hey, we got to see it all the way through. This is not a run. He's already gotten hurt once. You need to. I believe he got also poked in the eye. Crazy. What kind of a season is this? But that being said, you need to see it all the way through. But it was very odd that Sealer was like, oh, yeah, I don't really remember what happened. I'm like, wait, what? You don't remember? It sounds like a cover-up to me, Zach Sealer. And there's only one person I think you'd want to cover up for. So, I don't know. That one was quite fishy to me. Quite fishy to me. But that being said, to get him back, it sounds like they're going to get Kader Kohu back. Javon Holland's a game-time decision. Of course, I'm sure there's going to be some Jalen Ramsey Goosies being back in the place where he won a Super Bowl with. He's obviously got some knowledge of this Sean McVay and what he's bringing to the table, which is like a cousin of being off of the Mike McDaniel offense. But man, this team's got firepower between their top weapons, their run game, their quarterback. Stafford's really just getting his weapons back. He's turned it up the last 2 weeks. 6 touchdowns, two interceptions. His first 2 multi-touchdown games of the season against Minnesota and Seattle. So they're coming along, man. They are coming along, and it does feel like the Dolphins are going to need the one thing you can say with Stafford. They've dealt with a lot of mobile quarterbacks. I don't think you would put Matthew Stafford necessarily in that category. So, Miami this is not going up against Josh Allen and Kyler Murray and or even Anthony Richardson. So I think that's one benefit that Miami's going to have in this is that, all right, at least, yes, they got weapons, but maybe we can pin the ears back a little bit. We can get after this guy because we don't really have that fear that he's going to go out there and make things happen so far this season. Matthew Stafford, -7 yards rushing for the year. So, yeah, I think at his age, his style, that's one benefit because the Miami Dolphins have been dealing with some hellacious, I want to say mobile quarterbacks. I don't want to put dual threat under the description of Anthony Richardson, but he kicked the Dolphins' ass, so no hate from here. It is just the facts there. Miami's got to snap this 3-game losing streak if they're going to have this season mean anything. It starts this week, but I feel like we've been saying that a lot. So they got to go out there and execute. They got to go show the fans. You know, we could sit here and we could talk till we're aqua and orange in the face about where the Dolphins should, could, would win this game. But they also need to show where they won't blow this game, because that's really been the pattern for them. Because they feel like they have the tools. It's just that, can they follow along the instructions and get the project done? That's what we're going to have to see coming up on Monday Night Football.